Captain Hyunwoo Kim stood on the bridge of the UES Dauntless, watching the stars through the main screen. Today was the day they would test humanity's first faster-than-light engine. After years of work, they were finally ready to jump to Proxima, Centauri and back. "All systems ready, Captain," said Chief Engineer Yuna Park from her station. She had been working on the quantum fold drive for 3 years. Her hands moved quickly across the control panel, checking numbers one last time. "Communications. Clear," reported Jiwon Lee. "No other ships in the area. We have a clean path for the jump." Hyunwoo nodded. "All right, everyone, this is it. Our first step into the galaxy." He sat down in his captain's chair. "Yuna, begin the jump sequence." Yuna's fingers danced over the controls. The ship hummed with power as the quantum fold drive charged up. "Coordinates set for Proxima Centauri. Jump in 10 seconds. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The universe twisted around them. Space folded like paper, and the Dauntless disappeared from Earth's solar system. But something went wrong. When the stars stopped spinning, Hyunwoo knew immediately they were not where they should be. The view screen showed something impossible. Thousands of massive ships floated in perfect formation around them. Each ship was easily 10 times larger than the Dauntless. "Where are we?" asked Science Officer Min-ho Choi, his eyes wide as he stared at the alien fleet. Yuna checked her instruments 3 times. Her face went pale. "Captain, I made a mistake with the calculations. We're not at Proxima Centauri. We're somewhere completely different." "How different?" Hyunwoo asked calmly. "About 15,000 light-years from Earth different." Before anyone could respond, the ship's alarm started ringing. Dozens of alien vessels were moving toward them, weapons glowing with strange energy. Jiwon's communication board lit up with incoming signals. "Captain, they're trying to contact us. The translation software is working, but barely." "Put them through." A harsh voice filled the bridge. The words were translated into rough English. "Unknown vessel. You have entered Imperial space without permission. Prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in immediate destruction." Medical Officer Sora Nam looked up from her station. "They don't sound very friendly." Security Chief Dae-hyun checked his weapon systems. They had basic defensive shields and some mining lasers. Against this massive fleet, they might as well throw rocks. "Captain, we're seriously outgunned here." Pilot Junho Wang turned from his controls. "Should I try to run?" Hyunwoo studied the alien ships surrounding them. Each one was a work of art and terror. Sharp angles, dark metal, and weapons that could probably destroy Earth's moon. The smart thing would be to surrender. The safe thing would be to beg for mercy. Instead, Hyunwoo did what humans do best when faced with the impossible. He improvised. "Jiwon, open a channel." "Channel open, sir." Hyunwoo stood up and straightened his uniform. "This is Captain Hyunwoo Kim of the United Earthship Dauntless. We seem to have taken a wrong turn somewhere. Mind pointing us toward the nearest gas station?" The bridge fell silent. Even the alien fleet seemed to pause. Yuna stared at her captain. "Did you just ask a galactic empire for directions to a gas station?" "They probably don't know what a gas station is," Minho whispered. The alien voice returned, but now it sounded confused. "Gas station? Define this term." Jiwon tried not to laugh as she managed the translation. "Captain, I think they're actually trying to understand what you meant." "Tell them it's a place where travelers get fuel and snacks," Hyunwoo said. "And maybe ask if they have maps." The communication channel went quiet for several minutes. The human crew could imagine the aliens trying to figure out what kind of species treats first contact like asking for driving directions. Finally, a different voice came through the speakers. This one sounded older, more formal. "Human vessel. I am Admiral Vexathera of the Imperial 7th Fleet. You will follow our ships to Nexus Prime for processing. Any attempt to flee will result in your destruction." "Processing sounds ominous," Dae-hyun muttered. Sora checked her medical scanners. "Captain, I'm reading life signs on those ships. The crew members seem to be from dozens of different species. An empire of many worlds." Minho said with excitement. Think of the scientific discoveries we could make. Yuna was already studying the alien engine signatures. Their technology is incredible. If we could learn from them. Yunwoo listened to his crew's enthusiasm and made a decision that would change galactic history. Admiral Vexithera, we'd be happy to follow you to Nexus Prime. Thank you for the escort service. By the way, do you folks drink coffee? We brought some excellent beans from Earth. Again, silence from the alien fleet. Junho quietly prepared the EO ship to follow the Imperial vessels. Captain, are we really going to just fly into the heart of an alien empire? Why not? Yunwoo shrugged. We came out here to explore the galaxy. This is definitely exploring. As the Dauntless moved through the Imperial fleet, the human crew pressed against the windows to get better looks at the alien ships. Instead of being terrified prisoners, they acted like tourists on the universe's most interesting field trip. Jiwan kept the communication channels open, occasionally asking the Imperial ships questions about their home worlds. Sora offered medical assistance to any crew members who might need it. Minho took detailed scans of everything, building humanity's first database of alien technology. The Imperial ships escorted them through a series of jump gates. Each jump brought them deeper into the heart of the Kethran Empire. The humans should have been scared. Instead, they were fascinated. Look at the architecture on that space station, Yuna pointed out. The engineering is amazing. Those are probably government buildings, Minho added. I wonder how their political system works. Admiral Vexithara watched the human ship through his command center screens. In 40 years of Imperial service, he had escorted thousands of captured vessels. They usually contained crews broken by fear, begging for mercy, or plotting desperate escape attempts. These humans were taking pictures. Admiral, his communications officer reported, the human ship is requesting permission to record their journey for their historical archives. Vexthera's 4 eyes blinked slowly. They want to document their own capture? Yes, sir. They also asked if we could slow down near the next star system, because their science officer wants to take spectral readings. The Admiral sat back in his command chair. In all his years of service, he had never encountered a species that treated Imperial detention like a sightseeing tour. As the fleet approached Nexus Prime, the massive capital station filled the view screens. It was a structure that had taken centuries to build, designed to inspire awe and fear in all who saw it. The human response came over the communication channel immediately. Wow, that's beautiful. The symmetry is perfect. Did architects design this or engineers? Vexthara realized something troubling. For the first time in his career, he was genuinely curious about his prisoners. These humans were either the bravest species in the galaxy or the most foolish. He was beginning to suspect it might be both. The guest quarters on Nexus Prime were designed for diplomatic visitors from conquered worlds. They were comfortable but clearly monitored. The humans did not seem to mind the surveillance cameras. Instead, they waved at them cheerfully and gave tours of their few belongings to whoever was watching. These are Earth coffee beans, Yuna explained to a camera, holding up a small bag. We brought them in case we got hungry during the test flight. Would anyone like to try some? Within an hour, 3 different alien species had requested samples. Yunwoo spent his time reading Imperial law documents that translator Kivara had provided. The legal code was fascinating in its complexity. There were rules for everything, from proper greeting postures to punishment for looking directly at Imperial officials. Listen to this, he said to his crew. Imperial Law 1247 states that all subjects must maintain a distance of exactly 3 meters from any Imperial officer, unless given permission to approach. That seems inefficient, Sora said. How do they give medical examinations? Or shake? Hands? Junho added. Jiwan was practicing basic phrases in the Imperial language. The translation software helped, but she wanted to communicate directly. I think their word for hello is the same as their word for surrender. That explained some confusion. Minho had set up a small laboratory in one corner of their quarters. He was analyzing samples of station air, water, and food to understand alien biology. The diversity here is amazing. I count at least 40 different atmospheric requirements on this station alone. Dae-hyun was doing push-ups in the center of the room. Several alien guards had gathered outside the transparent wall to watch. Human exercise apparently looked very strange to them. "Why do you perform unnecessary physical stress?" one guard had asked through the intercom. "It keeps us healthy and happy," Dae-hyun replied between repetitions. "Want to try?" The guard declined, but continued watching with obvious curiosity. The second day, High Arbiter Zelnathos arrived for their formal interrogation. He entered with a full ceremonial escort, wearing robes that marked his supreme authority. The humans should have been intimidated. Instead, they offered him coffee. "It's a beverage from Earth," Sora explained, pouring from a small thermos they had brought. "It helps with mental clarity and tastes good." Zelnathos stared at the dark liquid. "You offer food to your judge?" "We offer hospitality to our host," Hyunwoo corrected gently. "On Earth, sharing food is how we show respect and friendship." The High Arbiter had presided over 10,000 trials. He had sentenced entire species to slavery. He had ordered the destruction of rebellious worlds. No one had ever offered him a hot beverage and called him a host. He accepted the coffee. The taste was unlike anything in the Imperial food database. It was bitter, but somehow pleasant, warming but energizing. After a few sips, his mind felt clearer than it had in years. "This is agreeable," he admitted. "Glad you like it," Yuna said. "We brought plenty." The interrogation proceeded unlike any in Imperial history. Instead of demanding answers, Zelnathos found himself asking questions out of genuine curiosity. Instead of providing desperate explanations, the humans shared stories about Earth with obvious enthusiasm. "Your world has no unified government?" Zelnathos asked. "Not exactly," Hyunwoo explained. "We have many different countries with different systems. Sometimes we argue, but mostly we work together when it matters." "How do you maintain order? Without absolute authority?" "We talk things out," G1 said. "It takes longer, but everyone feels heard that way." This concept seemed to confuse every alien in the room. The Empire maintained order through clear hierarchy and absolute obedience. The idea of voluntary cooperation was foreign to them. "What happens when your countries disagree?" asked one of the court officials. "We negotiate," Sora said. "Or we agree to disagree. Sometimes we have competitions to settle things. Sports, cooking contests, debates." "You resolve conflicts through games?" Zelnathos asked. "Among other things." Minho nodded. "Fighting is expensive and nobody wins. Games are fun and everyone learns something." Dae-hyun demonstrated by teaching several guards a simple hand game from Earth. Within minutes, aliens who had never spoken to each other were laughing and competing. The formal interrogation devolved into an informal cultural exchange. The humans asked about alien customs, shared stories from Earth, and treated their trial like an educational opportunity. "On your world," Zelnathos asked, "what happens to criminals?" "Depends on the crime," Hyunwoo said. "Mostly we try to understand why they did it and help them make better choices. Punishment doesn't really solve problems." "You do not execute lawbreakers?" "Sometimes for the worst crimes," Sora admitted. "But we don't like it. We prefer healing to hurting." This statement caused discussion throughout the courtroom. Many alien species had never heard of a justice system based on rehabilitation, rather than punishment. Yuna had been quietly studying the courtroom's technology during the conversation. "Your Honor, I don't mean to be rude, but your environmental systems are working way too hard. You could probably cut energy costs by 40% with some simple modifications." "You would help the Empire become more efficient?" Zelnathos asked. "Why not? Wasting energy is bad for everyone. Besides, you've been very hospitable." Junho had been watching the various aliens in the gallery. "Are all these species part of the Empire voluntarily?" Translator Kivara looked uncomfortable. "The Empire provides protection and order to all member worlds." "That's not really an answer," Junho observed gently. "But okay." The High Arbiter made a decision that would be debated in Imperial courts for generations. "Guards, return the humans to their quarters. Continue diplomatic protocols." As they were escorted out, the humans thanked everyone they passed. They complimented the architecture, asked about alien families, and offered to share Earth recipes. "Thank you for the interesting day," Yunwu said to Zelnathos. "We learned a lot. Tomorrow, would you like to hear about human music? We brought some recordings." After the humans left, the courtroom remained buzzing with conversation. Representatives from conquered worlds whispered among themselves. Many had never seen prisoners treat their captors as potential friends. Zelnathos sat alone on his throne, drinking the remainder of his coffee. The humans had not begged for mercy. They had not offered tribute or threatened revenge. They had shared a beverage and asked if they could play music. In his private chambers that night, he contacted Emperor Kralvex. "Your Imperial Majesty, we have a situation with the human prisoners. Are they planning escape? Rebellion?" The Emperor's voice crackled through the communication device. "No, sir. They have asked permission to host a cultural exchange dinner tomorrow night. They want to cook Earth food for the station staff." The communication channel went silent for a long time. "They want to cook for us?" the Emperor finally asked. "Yes, sir. They also offered to help repair some of our older equipment and teach our children games from their world. High Arbiter, in your professional opinion, what manner of psychological warfare is this?" Zelnathos thought about it carefully. "I do not believe it is warfare at all, Your Majesty. I think they are simply being themselves." That night, word spread throughout Nexus Prime about the strange humans who treated their captivity like a friendly visit. Aliens who had never questioned Imperial authority began asking new questions. If these newcomers could be so confident and kind while facing the Empire's power, what did that say about the Empire itself? Change was coming to the galaxy. It tasted like coffee and sounded like human laughter. Emperor Kralvex the Eternal had ruled the Kethran Empire for over 2,000 years. He had conquered hundreds of worlds and crushed dozens of rebellions. In all that time, nothing had confused him more than 7 humans asking for directions and offering coffee. "Send them to the Threx sector," he commanded during an emergency council meeting. "Give them an impossible task. When they fail, we can process them according to standard Imperial law." High Arbiter Zelnathos shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Your Majesty, the Threx sector has been in civil war for 3 centuries. We have lost entire fleets there." "Exactly." The Emperor smiled with his sharp teeth. "These humans will learn that confidence without power leads only to death. The Threx sector was the Empire's greatest failure. 3 different species lived there, and they had been fighting each other for so long that no one remembered how the war started. The Krell built massive war machines and attacked from underground tunnels. The Vex flew swift fighters and controlled the skies. The Theran were master strategists who used both ground and air forces. Imperial peacekeeping forces had tried to stop the fighting many times. Each attempt failed. The 3 species hated each other more than they feared the Empire." When High Arbiter Zelnathos explained the mission to the humans, they listened carefully and asked practical questions. "How long has this been going on?" Hyunwoo asked. 347 years. "And what have previous peacekeeping forces tried? Separation zones, orbital bombardment, resource blockades, military occupation." Yuna nodded thoughtfully. "All stick, no carrot." "Excuse me? Sorry, Earth expression," Minho explained. "It means punishment without reward. You tried force without offering benefits." "The benefit is ending the war," Zelnathos said. "For you," Sora pointed out. "What's the benefit for them?" This question had never been asked in Imperial strategy meetings. Daehyun studied the tactical reports. "They're fighting over resources, territory, and old grudges. Classic conflict escalation. We'll need supplies," Hyunwoo said. "Food, medical equipment, construction materials." "For what purpose?" "To help people," Junho said simply. "That's usually how you stop wars." 3 days later, the Dauntless dropped out of hyperspace in the middle of the Threx sector battlefield. Immediately, all 3 warring factions opened fire on them. "Shields up," Hyunwoo ordered calmly. "Captain, we have incoming missiles from all directions," Junho reported. And plasma bolts from those Vex fighters, Daehyun added. Plus some kind of energy cannon from the Krell underground positions, Yuna said. The ship shook under the combined assault. Systems sparked and alarms rang throughout the bridge. Should I return fire? Daehyun asked. No, Hyunwoo said. Jawan, open a channel to all combatants. Channel open, sir. Attention, everyone shooting at us, Hyunwoo said in his most friendly voice. This is Captain Kim of the UES Dauntless. We're here to help. We brought pizza recipes and coffee. Anyone interested in a ceasefire and some Earth food? The weapons fire stopped abruptly. Did that actually work? Yuna asked, checking her instruments. They stopped shooting, Junho confirmed. I think they're confused. 3 different voices came through the communication system. The first was rough and growling. What is pizza? The second was high and musical. Define coffee parameters. The third was mechanical and precise. Food offering requires tactical analysis. Sora smiled. I think we have their attention. Over. The next hour, the humans explained Earth cuisine to 3 alien species who had been trying to kill each other for centuries. They described pizza as bread with cheese and vegetables, coffee as a drink that makes you happy, and Earth cooking as making food that brings people together. We'll set up on that asteroid, Hyunwoo announced, pointing to a small moon between the 3 warring territories. Neutral ground, everyone's invited. This violates all military protocols, the Krell commander growled. Probably, Yuna agreed. But aren't you tired of fighting? We have fought for generations, the Vex leader sang. It is our way. Was it always your way? Minho asked. What did your people do before the war? This question made all 3 species pause. The fighting had gone on so long that few remembered peacetime. The Krell were master builders, the mechanical voice finally admitted. We constructed great cities beneath the ground. The Vex were artists, the musical voice added. We painted the sky with light and song. The Thuran were scholars, the growling voice said quietly. We preserved knowledge from across the sector. That sounds amazing, Sora said genuinely. We'd love to learn about all of that. The humans spent the next week setting up a temporary base on the neutral asteroid. They worked in full view of all 3 factions, building prefabricated structures and setting up communication arrays. When Krell war machines approached, Yuna waved at them and asked if they wanted to help carry supplies. When Vex fighters flew overhead, Junho performed aerobatic maneuvers with the Dauntless that made the alien pilots applaud. When Thuran strategists studied their base, Minho invited them to inspect the construction and offer improvements. The first breakthrough came when a Krell tunneling machine broke down near the human base. Instead of seeing it as a threat, Yuna grabbed her tools and walked over to help. Your fusion coupling is misaligned, she told the surprised Krell operators. Here, let me show you. Within an hour, she had not only fixed their machine but improved its efficiency by 20%. The Krell workers were so grateful they stayed for dinner. Sora's mobile medical station treated wounded from all 3 factions. She did not ask which side they fought for, only what hurt and how she could help. Alien soldiers who had been enemies for decades found themselves sitting next to each other in her waiting area, sharing stories about their injuries. Your people have been fighting so long you've developed stress-related health problems, she explained to a mixed group of patients. The good news is, these are completely treatable. Daehyun organized the first interspecies sporting event in Threx sector history. It was supposed to be a simple demonstration of human games, but it turned into a week-long festival when the aliens discovered they enjoyed competition without death. The rules are simple. He explained the game of volleyball to a mixed crowd. Get the ball over the net. Work as a team. Have fun. The first game featured 2 Krell, 3 Vex, and 1 Thuran on each side. They played badly, but laughed constantly. The sound of alien laughter echoing across the battlefield confused monitoring stations throughout the sector. Minho's greatest success came when he realized all 3 species were fighting over rare mineral deposits that were actually common in other parts of the galaxy. He shared geological surveys from Imperial databases and showed them how to find the same materials through trade instead of war. You could get 10 times more resources through commerce than you'll ever capture through Fighting, he explained to the three faction leaders during an impromptu peace conference. But trade requires trust, the Theran leader pointed out. Trust starts with small steps, Jiwan said, like sharing a meal. The breakthrough came during the humans' third week in the sector. Sora was treating a badly injured Vex pilot when Krell, medics arrived with better surgical equipment. Instead of fighting over who would treat the patient, they worked together under Sora's guidance. The pilot survived because enemies chose to cooperate. Word of the medical cooperation spread quickly. Soon mixed medical teams were operating throughout the sector. Soldiers who had been shooting at each other in the morning were saving each other's lives by evening. Yuna's engineering workshops became legendary. Beings from all three species gathered to learn human problem-solving techniques. They started small, fixing broken equipment together. Then they began designing new tools that combined the best ideas from all their cultures. The Krell tunneling technology with Vex flight systems and Theran planning algorithms, Yuna explained to a fascinated crowd. You could build amazing things if you worked together. Junho's flight demonstrations evolved into a collaboration between human pilots and Vex flyers. They developed new techniques that neither species could achieve alone. The aerial displays became so popular that ground troops stopped fighting to watch the shows. Flying is better when you share the sky, a young Vex pilot told Junho after their first joint performance. Minho's scientific exchanges created the sector's first joint research projects in centuries. Krell geological expertise, Vex atmospheric knowledge, and Theran data analysis combined with human innovation to solve problems none of them could handle separately. Daehyun's sports leagues grew into something unprecedented. Mixed teams of former enemies trained together, ate together, and celebrated victories together. The games became more important than the war. By the end of the month, Imperial monitoring stations reported something impossible. Weapons fire in the Threk sector had decreased by 90%. Resource conflicts had virtually stopped. The three species were building joint settlements. High Arbiter Zelnathos received reports that seemed like fiction. The humans had not conquered the warring species through superior firepower. They had not imposed peace through force. They had simply treated everyone like friends and neighbors, and somehow that was enough. Emperor Kralvex read the reports 3 times before believing them. The humans ended. News traveled fast in the Kethran Empire. Within days, every world knew about the humans who had solved the Threk sector crisis with cooking and sports. The story grew with each telling, but the core message remained the same. Cooperation worked, better than conquest. Admiral Vexithara received the first request 3 days after the humans left the Threk sector. It came from the Jacques Mining Guild, one of the Empire's oldest industrial operations. We request consultation with the human specialists, the message read. Our extraction operations have become inefficient. Standard Imperial methods are insufficient. Vexithara forwarded the request to High Arbiter Zelnathos, who was still trying to understand what had happened in the courtroom. The humans had turned a trial into a coffee break and somehow made everyone involved question 10,000 years of Imperial tradition. Send them to the Mining Guild, Zelnathos decided. But monitor everything. The Jacques Mining Guild operated massive asteroid facilities throughout the Empire. They had been extracting metals and rare elements for centuries, using the same brutal methods. Work was dangerous, efficiency was low, and worker morale was worse. When the Dauntless arrived at Mining Station Jacques 7, Guild Supervisor Mortan expected Imperial consultants. Instead, he met 7 humans who asked to tour the facilities and talk to the workers. This is highly irregular, Mortan told them. Consultants usually analyze reports, not speak with laborers. How can we understand the problems without talking to the people doing the work? Yuna asked. She spent 2 days walking through the mining tunnels, talking to workers from a dozen different species. They told her about equipment that broke constantly, safety procedures that made no sense, and quotas that pushed everyone to exhaustion. Your extraction method is backwards, she told Morton after completing her survey. You're mining against the asteroid's structure instead of with it. Explain. Yuna pulled up holographic displays showing the asteroid's internal composition. See these stress lines? You're cutting across them, which weakens everything. But if you follow the natural breaks, you get better material and safer conditions. She demonstrated her technique on a small test section. The new method extracted 40% more ore with half the structural damage. The workers finished their shifts with energy to spare instead of exhaustion. Within a week, the Jacques Mining Guild had adopted human engineering principles throughout their operation. Production increased, accidents decreased, and worker satisfaction improved dramatically. But the real change came when Sora introduced worker health programs and Daehyun organized recreational activities. Suddenly, beings who had been forced to work together started choosing to spend time together. We never knew the Rigelians had such interesting music, a Jacques supervisor admitted to Mortan. The humans suggested we share cultural events. Similar requests began arriving from across the empire. The Veltan Agricultural Collective wanted help with crop failures. The Nexari Trade Federation needed assistance with shipping route optimization. The Corvin Science Institute requested collaboration on research projects. Each time, the humans approached problems with the same basic philosophy: talk to everyone involved, understand what they actually needed, and find solutions that helped everyone. Minho revolutionized Veltan farming by introducing crop rotation techniques from Earth. "You've been exhausting your soil," he explained to amazed agricultural scientists. "Plants need variety, just like people need variety in their diet." The technique was so simple that the Veltans wondered why they had never thought of it. Within a growing season, their food production doubled. Jiwon helped the Nexari Trade Federation by suggesting they ask ship captains what problems they faced during long journeys. The answers led to rest stations, entertainment facilities, and crew rotation programs that made shipping faster and safer. "You asked us what we needed," Captain Veltar of the cargo ship Prophet Stream told the Federation Council. In 40 years of service, no administrator had ever asked that question. Junho's work with the Corvin Science Institute produced breakthroughs in stellar navigation. Human mathematical approaches combined with Corvin computational power created star maps more accurate than anything the Empire had ever possessed. "Human mathematics is chaotic," Dr. Thyara admitted, "but it works in situations where our orderly methods fail." Every success created new problems for the Empire. Species that had been conquered and controlled for centuries began asking dangerous questions. If humans could solve their problems so easily, why did they need Imperial oversight? If cooperation worked better than force, what was the Empire really for? The first open rebellion came from the Veltan Agricultural Collective. They declared independence from the Empire and requested human assistance in establishing their own government. "We no longer require Imperial protection," their declaration stated. "We have learned there are better ways to organize society." Emperor Kralvex dispatched a battle fleet to crush the rebellion. When they arrived at Veltan space, they found something unprecedented. The agricultural worlds were defended by a coalition of species that had never worked together before. Krell engineers had built defensive platforms. Vex pilots flew protection patrols. Thuran strategists coordinated the defense. Former enemies from the Threx sector had come to help their new friends. "This is Admiral Rexthon of the Imperial Fleet," the battle commander announced. "Veltan worlds surrender immediately or face orbital bombardment." The response came from an unexpected source. Captain Hyunwoo's voice carried across all communication channels. "Admiral Rexthon, this is Captain Kim. Before you start shooting, would you like to hear about what we've been doing here? I think you might find it interesting." "I am not interested in human propaganda." "Not propaganda," Sora's voice joined the channel. "Medical reports. We've been treating genetic diseases that have plagued these worlds for generations. Would you like to see the results?" Despite himself, Admiral Rexthon was curious. Genetic diseases had affected his own crew for years. Imperial medicine had made no progress against them. "We could share the treatments with your fleet," Minho offered. "No charge, just helping neighbors." The Admiral faced a decision no Imperial officer had ever confronted. He could follow orders and attack worlds defended by former enemies working together, or he could learn why species throughout the Empire were abandoning Imperial rule to join the human approach. He chose to listen. 3 hours later, Admiral Rexthon was aboard the Dauntless, drinking coffee and watching Sora treat his crew's medical conditions. The treatments worked perfectly. Your medicine is effective, he admitted. It's not really ours, Sora said. We combined human techniques with Veltan plant knowledge and Krell mineral processing. Everyone contributed something. You worked with conquered species as equals? We worked with friends as friends, Yuna corrected. That's how you get the best results. Admiral Rexthon had commanded Imperial fleets for 2 centuries. He had conquered 12 worlds and crushed 6 rebellions. He had never seen anything like what the humans had created. Admiral, Hyunwoo said gently, what do you think the Empire is for? To maintain order, to provide security, to advance civilization. And is it working? Rexthon thought about the endless rebellions, the constant wars, the fear that held the Empire together. It maintains order. What if there was a better way? That night, Admiral Rexthon sent a message to Emperor Kralvex that would shake the foundations of Imperial power. Your Majesty, I formally request that the Imperial fleet withdraw from Veltan space. The rebellion here is not a threat to the Empire. It is an improvement upon it. The message was followed by detailed reports of everything Rexthon had witnessed. Cooperative engineering projects, joint medical programs, cultural exchanges, and peace agreements between species that had been enemies for centuries. Emperor Kralvex read the reports in his private chambers. Outside his windows, the lights of the imperial capital stretched to the horizon. 10,000 years of absolute power had built this civilization. 7 humans were unraveling it with kindness and coffee. The Emperor realized he faced the greatest crisis in imperial history. The humans were not conquering the Empire through force. They were not stealing territory or enslaving populations. They were making the Empire irrelevant by showing that people could govern themselves. Summon the War Council, he commanded. We end this now. Emperor Kralvex the Eternal stood before the largest military gathering in galactic history. Over 10,000 ships filled the space around the imperial capital world. Representatives from every corner of the Empire had sent their most powerful fleets. The human infection has spread too far, the Emperor announced to his assembled admirals. 67 worlds have declared independence. Trade routes are disrupted. Species that have served the Empire for millennia now speak of cooperation and friendship. Admiral Mordak of the Inner Worlds Fleet raised one of his 4 arms. Your Majesty, perhaps we could negotiate with these humans. There is no negotiation with chaos, the Emperor replied coldly. The humans have introduced dangerous ideas that threaten the natural order. They must be eliminated before their influence spreads further. But their methods work. Admiral Rexthon said quietly, I have seen the results myself. The Emperor's eyes turned to Rexthon. Admiral, you were ordered to crush the Veltan rebellion. Instead, you joined it. Explain yourself. Rexthon stood straighter. Your Majesty, I followed my duty to advance imperial interests. The human approach achieves imperial goals more effectively than imperial methods. By abandoning imperial authority? By discovering that authority earned through service is stronger than authority maintained through fear. The War Council erupted in argument. Some admirals agreed with Rexthon. Others demanded immediate action against the human threat. A few suggested studying human methods before making decisions. Emperor Kralvex listened to the debate with growing anger. The humans had infected even his own officers with their ridiculous ideas about cooperation and voluntary loyalty. Enough, he commanded. We attack immediately. All fleets will converge on the Threk sector. We will destroy the humans and any species that supports them. The massive Imperial Armada jumped to hyperspace. 10,000 ships carrying millions of soldiers and enough firepower to crack planets. They emerged in the Threk sector expecting to find a small rebellion. Instead, they found something unprecedented. The space around the former battlefield was filled with activity. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species worked together on massive construction projects. Space stations grew from asteroid bases. Agricultural platforms hung in orbital gardens. Science vessels from former enemies conducted joint research missions. And in the center of it all, the tiny UES Dauntless sat docked to what appeared to be a interspecies community center. "This is Emperor Kralvex the Eternal," the Imperial broadcast began. "All vessels will surrender immediately or be destroyed." The response came from Captain Hyunwoo, and his voice carried the same casual confidence it had during their first meeting. "Emperor, sir, respectfully, you're bringing weapons to a potluck dinner. How about instead of all this shooting, you come down and try Dr. Nam's famous bulgogi? Fair warning, though, it's pretty spicy." The Emperor stared at his communications. "Officer, did they just invite me to dinner?" "Yes, Your Majesty. They also offered cooking lessons and asked if our fleet needs medical assistance." Throughout the Imperial Armada, ship commanders waited for orders to attack. Instead, they listened to humans offering food and friendship to the most powerful being in the galaxy. "Open fire," the Emperor commanded. But before the Imperial fleet could launch their assault, something unexpected happened. Ships began breaking formation. Admiral Rexthon's fleet moved to defensive positions around the cooperative worlds. Admiral Tamara of the Science Division requested permission to dock and observe the human methods. Captain Zelvon of the cargo fleet asked if the humans needed supply assistance. "What are you doing?" the Emperor demanded over fleet communications. "Learning," Rexthon replied simply. "Your Majesty, I formally request that you observe the human approach before making final decisions. I do not negotiate with rebels." "Then observe as Emperor." Minho's voice joined the channel. "We'd be honored to show you what we've been working on. The engineering projects alone are worth seeing." Despite his anger, Emperor Kralvex was curious. In 2,000 years of rule, he had never had anyone invite him to see their work. People usually tried to hide from him. Against every instinct, he agreed to tour the cooperative facilities. The Emperor's personal shuttle docked with the community center under heavy guard. He expected to find a military installation or government complex. Instead, he walked into something that looked like a festival. Alien children ran through corridors playing games that mixed traditions from their different worlds. Adults from species that had been enemies for generations worked side by side on projects that benefited everyone. The air smelled like food from dozens of different cultures. "Welcome to the neighborhood," Hyunwoo greeted him casually. "Thanks for coming. Can we get you something to eat?" The Emperor looked around at his supposedly dangerous enemies. They were gardening, cooking, building, learning, and laughing together. No one seemed afraid of him. No one even seemed to notice his imperial authority. "This is your rebellion?" he asked. "This is just Tuesday," Yuna replied, looking up from an engineering project that involved 3 different species working on quantum computers. "You should see what we do on weekends." Sora appeared with a plate of food from Earth. "Try this. It's bulgogi, Junho's grandmother's recipe." The Emperor of the Galaxy found himself holding a plate of alien food, surrounded by former subjects who treated him like a neighbor who had dropped by for dinner. "You realize," he said slowly, "that I came here to destroy you." "We figured," Daehyun said, continuing his game of alien chess with a Krell engineer. "But you're here now, so you might as well enjoy yourself." Over the next several hours, the Emperor toured facilities that redefined what civilization could be. He saw former enemies teaching each other's children. He watched scientists from different worlds sharing discoveries freely. He observed workers who competed to help each other instead of competing for resources. "How do you maintain order without authority?" he asked Hyunwoo during dinner. "We don't maintain order," Hyunwoo replied. "We create cooperation. People follow rules they help make. They work harder for goals they choose. And if they refuse to cooperate, then we figure out why," Sora said. "Usually people act badly when they're scared, hungry, or hurt. Fix those problems and most people choose to be good neighbors." The Emperor ate his bulgogi in silence, thinking. Around him, his former subjects laughed and shared stories. They were not being controlled or commanded. They were choosing to work together because it made their lives better. "Your Majesty," Jiwon asked, "what do you enjoy doing? Besides ruling, I mean." The question caught him off guard. No one has asked me that in centuries." "Well, you must have hobbies, things you do for fun." Kralvex thought about it. Before becoming emperor, he had been a scholar. He had studied ancient mathematics and written poetry, but ruling the empire had consumed everything else. I once studied star patterns, he admitted. Minho's eyes lit up. Really? We've been working on new navigation techniques. Would you like to see them? For the first time in 2,000 years, Emperor Kralvex spent an evening doing something he enjoyed instead of something required by duty. He worked with Minho and Corvin scientists on mathematical models that could predict stellar drift over geological time periods. This is elegant, he said, studying their calculations. More sophisticated than current imperial navigation. It's better because everyone contributed, Minho explained. Corvin processing power, human theoretical approaches, and your historical data. None of us could have done it alone. That night, the Emperor walked through the community center after most beings had gone to sleep. He found Hyunwoo sitting in an observation lounge, looking out at the stars. Captain Kim, the Emperor said, you have destroyed my empire. Hyunwoo looked up. Have we? Sorry about that. It wasn't intentional. You are not sorry. You're right, Hyunwoo admitted. We're not sorry, but we are grateful. For what? For showing us that the galaxy is full of amazing people who just needed a chance to work together. The Emperor sat down next to the human captain. Outside the windows, both Imperial and cooperative ships floated peacefully together. Many of the Imperial crews had joined the evening's cultural activities. My empire was built on strength, Kralvex said. 10,000 years of absolute power. And it worked, Hyunwoo acknowledged. You brought order to chaos, peace to warring worlds. That's not nothing. But your way is better. Our way is different. Maybe it's time for something new. The Emperor was quiet for a long time. Finally, he asked, what happens to emperors in your cooperative system? Depends on what they're good at, Hyunwoo said. You're obviously smart, experienced, and good at organizing large groups. Those are valuable skills. You would trust a former tyrant? You're not a tyrant. You're someone who did what he thought was best with the knowledge he had. Now you have new knowledge. The next morning, Emperor Kralvex called together his fleet commanders. But instead of ordering an attack, he made an announcement that would be remembered for generations. Effective immediately, the Kethran Empire will begin transitioning to a cooperative federation. All member worlds may choose their level of participation. Imperial fleets will serve as peacekeepers and emergency responders, not occupying forces. The response was immediate chaos. Some admirals protested,